I've never seen a retirement that has been honored as little as Gronk's most recent retirement.
Nobody believes it. Even his agent was like, don't buy it. When Brady calls, he'll be there. Don't worry.
I believe it because there was so much work put into that Instagram post. It was this really cool thing they did with Photoshop to the photo. And did you see how many words were in it? For Gronk, that's an amazing amount of words.
I know. He had a whole Instagram slide. This is easily 300 words. But it started off with, in college, I was asked to write about a dream job opportunity that I wanted to pursue and where the location would be. I mean, I'm not trying to be that person, but does that sound like a college assignment? Do you think they had a special lane for Gronk? Just like, write about a dream job. I feel like that's like isn't that what you write when you're like in third grade?
Well, I think maybe the whole football team might have had a special lane. We're not saying that's how schools work, but we know they kind of do. Yeah. But then what would a Gronk special lane look like? Like the physics of opening a beer can would be a class. Like what would a Gronk's ideal curriculum?
Oh my God, we should do that. It's the comparative politics of, bikinis versus one piece.
Yes.
Bathing suits.
A dance class where basically he's just pumping his fist.
I think the ideal temperature of a hot tub.
The idea, yeah. There's a lot of science here.
There is. I wonder his major is the minor, like party planning.
Yes,
majored in party planning, minored in
a geography class, trying to figure out the best party city. Is it Vegas? Is it Miami?
Let's sail the Gronk cruise everywhere. A Gronk cruise around the world. Little geography there. Ibiza. You get some other party ports.
It's definitely a music appreciation class.
Only party rockers. Their complete history. Instead of the history of rock and roll, the history just of the party rock.
Now,
rock anthem.
You've seen, I'm just remembering this. You've seen the reports that Gronk's great at math, right?
Somehow that actually wouldn't surprise me. Because if you just times things by 12 in a 12 pack. Or 10 yards at a time, 6 points at a time. I bet he's good at very, very specific math.
I'll be honest. I know we're making a bit here. I think Rob Gronkowski is actually pretty smart.
Well, he's come up with this. See, I just don't think it's a persona. Like, I think it's actually him. He just leans into it. I don't think it took like a lot of crafting to make this Gronk character.
I feel like I disagree a little bit. I think there is some acting up. I think Gronk has to fill these shoes of being Gronk. I think he's a different person.
So you must not have been lucky enough to read his autobiography. I was, as I interviewed Gronk once at a Barnes & Noble in New York about his book. And I was dumber after reading that book than I was when I started it. And how many times can you say that about a book? I also was lucky enough to meet his father that day.
Once again,
Gordy. Yeah.
Playing into the stereotype.
He's
someone who's worked on books like that.
Yes. He's perpetuating. Yeah. I mean, how else would I get this amazing anecdote that this is just what I remember off the top of my head from the Gronk autobiography was they would throw house parties when he was at Arizona, and they would flood the floor, the first floor,
right.
And then they would spray soap everywhere, and then open up the doors from the back of the house to the front of the house, and you would have to slide, like probably naked, I think they might have said that, from one door out the other door. And like and then that was one anecdote. And then the other was to get into the hot tub. I think women had to like disrobe something, and you had to throw either bras or bathing suit tops or whatever up into a tree that was like over the hot tub.
So you're saying,
again,
just doing these
things. Are we smarter or are we dumber? Yeah.
Just doing these things does not mean he's not a smart person. The fact that he decides to share them in a book.
Yes. And then get interviewed by people from Sports Illustrated. Now that was
Although the thing with the soap and the hot water.
Yeah, whatever.
Kind of, I'll bet you a lot of people, we did that in college.
So he also, this was one thing, and this is just actually now funny things I'm remembering. He once did get hired to be like he got hired to be entertainment for a party and didn't realize that it was like that they wanted him to strip. Something going on. Anyway. Gronk's autobiography.
I was at a Super Bowl party. It was a morning. It was like a brunch. It was like Bloody Marys and things. Gronk was sitting in the corner, and he was totally quiet, just sitting there. Then he got up on stage, and it was a completely different person.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, he's a performer.
He's a performer. I think there's so much of that. I know you think he's a total meathead, and there is some evidence to say that. I think there's more layers.
Wow, there's more to Gronk than meets the eye.
And by the way, to say that is not an outrageous statement because I think right now people think there's no layers.
It's a real hot take. It's probably the hottest one you've ever had on the show.
I'm saying like 2 or 3 layers. I'm not saying he is. Give me a name here.
Like Thoreau.
Yeah, I'm not saying
like one of the great poets of our time. I don't know where you're looking.
I'm not saying who's the smartest person.
Like Albert Einstein.
I'm
Neil
going
deGrasse Tyson.
Like he's got layers like an onion, so maybe Shrek. But I think there's one layer of Gronk, and that's just.
And it's covered in Bud Light.
I just gave for some reason Neil deGrasse Tyson keeps showing me. I'm like Gronk is not that, but he's somewhere closer to that than we think.
No, I'm sure Gronk has probably like looked up at the stars and probably wondered, something like just like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't know. This was supposed to be a segment on whether the Buccaneers
it's very relevant.
Super Bowl chances took a dive because Gronk retired. But I don't think any of us actually believe Gronk retired. We should. Do you want to talk about the Buccaneers?
Well, just can I say one thing real quick about the Bucs?
Okay.
Everyone's talking about Gronk retiring and Godwin coming off an ACL injury and some changes on the offensive line. No one's talking about the fact that they have a new head coach. Why? When do we think that a new head coach who happens to be a retread is going to make them Super Bowl favorites?
Okay.
They're second in odds in Vegas for Super Bowl champion. We don't talk at all about it. We assume, and you know why? Because we assume Tom Brady is so smart, it doesn't matter who the coach is. Brady is a de facto coach, kind of like LeBron in the NBA.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So Todd Bowles is an excellent defensive coordinator.
Yes.
We know that, right? So by virtue of hiring Todd Bowles and making him the head coach and not Byron Leftwich, what did they do? They basically said, Bowles, you take the defense, Byron Leftwich and Brady, they'll take the offense, and then the head coach decides, when practice is and all that stuff. Like the logistics. When do we fly into New Orleans? What hotel do we stay at?
I think that's a bit of an assumption because Bruce Arians has had a ton of success in the NFL.
Yeah.
I feel like that's being a little underplayed because I was here in New York for the Todd Bowles era.
Yeah, but he got dealt a pretty crapola hand. I mean, listen, they lost in Buffalo and they should have gone to the playoffs. That was definitely a team-wide failure if we want to go back and bring up old stuff. But then after that, I mean, he got a rookie Sam Darnold. All right, you go win with that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Am I being wrong? I think that he couldn't succeed in this specific setup?
I think in normal circumstances, we would care more about a coaching change.
Right.
I think it's a big deal. Yeah, I think it's a big deal. Bruce Arians, of course, hit the player.
Yeah, he did. He got fined for it.
Yeah, I think the team's going to be worse without the coach assaulting his players on a regular basis to keep them in line. No,
are you bringing that up as a positive or a negative?
Yeah, that's how you win football games.
Yeah.
No, era? I'm being joking a little bit. I do think Bruce Arians has had a positive impact that might be underappreciated. Like maybe he was a balance to Brady, so maybe there was something. But Bruce Arians has had a ton of. They just put his record up on the screen. It's unbelievable. He was 5-1 in the playoffs. Like Bruce Arians, I think, was a good coach. I think he did a great job with Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich. I don't think it's as easy. I worry a little bit about that transition along with everything else. So if Gronk's out there, Godwin is not himself. The offensive line doesn't gel immediately. I wonder if the Bucs are going to be good enough for Gronk to come out of retirement in November.
Oh, like it won't matter?
Well, they have to be right. He's got to know they're going to the Super Bowl to come back. He's got to know this is a very good team.
I think he's going to get that. I mean, there still are all like the core pieces of the Super Bowl winning team are still there, right? I mean, you still have Ryan Jensen, who's still the center, right? He came back, so that's important. And you got Brady. You still have Mike Evans. Yes, Godwin's coming off of an injury, no doubt. But you still have Leonard Fournette as your running back.
A little older Leonard Fournette.
Okay, on the defense, you still have Vita Vea. You still have Hicks. You still have Devin White, Levante David, a little older. You still have Shaq Barrett, Carlton Davis. You still have Antoine Winfield, Jamel Dean. All these guys are. This is the team. It's the same team.
Well, you don't have Antonio Brown.
Yeah, but even you said he was very minimized.
And then he became a thing again. It just feels like there's a lot of issues. Even last year, they were not really ready to go heading to last year's playoffs. They made a run against the Rams, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of health. It takes a lot of things to go right. And if their schedule starts off pretty tough, I think they have to be like 8-3 for Gronk to come back. I know that sounds stupid, but I don't think Gronk's going to come back unless he really thinks there's something special going on.
I would say the opposite could be true. It's, yes, if they are like running away with it, I would say if I'm Gronkowski and I don't want to come back, I'll be like, you don't need me. Look at how well you're doing. They need Gronk if they're like 4-5 and Brady's really up against the ropes. And then we start asking, should he have come back? Should he have stayed retired? And then Gronk has to come. They're going to need him. And in the NFC, really, what's your record have to be to make the playoffs? You might not get home field, but what's your,
probably 10-7.
Okay.
Or 9-8. I think that they need to be a Super Bowl team for Gronk. I don't think it's like that. I think what you said makes perfect sense. That's good logic to that. I think Gronk's like, I'm not going back to make a wild card run. It's a lot of pain that he goes through. I think they need to be a Super Bowl team. And listen to the start of their schedule. At Dallas, at New Orleans, Green Bay, Kansas City.
No, it's not easy.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah, but then it evens out. You're playing against the NFC South.
I'm telling you, there's extra weight because they have to have a good record. They got the Ravens in week 8. They have the Rams in week 9. This is brutal. They have to have a good record for Gronk to come back.
Tom Brady calls, you pick up. Like, no offense to Gronk. I know he's his own person. He's his own business and own entity. Brady calls. You're picking up and you're going.
He just retired yesterday. You don't think Tom Brady had anything to do with that?
No, Brady knows. It's like, all right, take your spring break.
All right.
Your extended spring break, where you'll be writing papers for such classes as how do bongs actually work? Actually, I don't know if he was a bong guy. Okay. Silence. Thank you for watching our video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, just hit the bell.
Yeah, ring the bell.
Just hit the bell.